one of Harrison Ford's character.
Yeah, Han Solo.
Han Solo takes out that alien in episode 4. It's episode 4, right?
Yeah.
When Ham's
Ham
Solo.
Ham Solo. Welcome back to another review of Bad Batch Season 3. This is episode 4, and I'm Kyle.
And I'm Dom.
Let's get started. This episode was a lot of fun. I had a great time. What'd you think?
This was the first time I felt like I was missing out on part of the plot.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was an enjoyable episode, but I did feel like there were some storylines I missed, but I do feel like it will be resolved in future episodes. And overall, I said dynamite.
Dynamite.
But it was a play on words. I know, then might. And again, we don't talk about the episodes afterwards, so we can reserve the conversation and our reactions for this moment.
Right.
But there was a time we slipped up. We were both thinking the same thing, and we just happened to mention it around the same time. And I got mad because Kyle mentioned it as I was scribbling the same thing in my notes.
This one, well, first of all, when you said dynamite, I also had that same word in mind, but for a different reason. Okay. So, first, welcome to Jurassic Park. I loved it. I mean, I enjoy seeing new aliens in Star Wars, but that scene was straight out of Jurassic Park, straight out of The Lost World.
I feel like half the episode was, is this a prank? This is Star Wars, right?
Yeah, the Gallimimus scene with these tall, running aliens was just right on the head.
Right, well, then they crash land into sharp-shaped surroundings. I wrote danger. Mm-hmm. It was just something about the sharp shapes, and then it looked like Jurassic Park after that.
Yeah, they really tried to make you feel almost trapped. Like they crash into this valley that's surrounded by these jagged mountains. It really gave you that feeling of they're stuck there. You know,
you're right. I remember I was holding my breath a little bit.
It was intense. I have to say, like, the coolest part was it took off immediately following the last episode. There was no breather. I wanted to almost watch the last episode and then key it right into this one. It was so good when we did that. So I also had dynamite on my mind because this felt like it was right out of the 70s. The outfits were looking time period to A New Hope. You could see the rebellion-esque in Crosshair's wardrobe. It was cool. Like I felt like I was watching something that could fit in to the original trilogy era, and I thought that's such a cool transition because we're seeing the end of the clone era. We're seeing the stormtroopers take over. We're seeing the familiar way that the stormtroopers are in these little towns, and they're doing their patrols. And I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. We're getting closer. And I love that there's that connective tissue in there to make the original trilogy super relevant in this, because I think sometimes we lose that a little bit and we pull back too much to the prequels. But now that we're going here, we're hitting that Rebels era. It's really exciting to see.
Okay, so we find out Dr. Hemlock knows that Nala Se has not been testing Omega's blood.
Yeah.
And she looked like a prairie dog, like, huh? Huh? They just closed the doors and she, huh? I didn't think her eyes could get that big.
Oh, that was a big eyes. Big-eyed, long-necked Betty.
And then there's the standard makeover scene. Kyle already talked about the fashion. We're going to talk about makeovers. Like, we need to find clothes. We need to blend in, baby.
But see, that's what I'm saying. It feels like a 70s, 80s time period. Because, like, there were so many of those, like, montage moments in that era. Like, It was super clever. Like they're really connecting you to that cool time period.
All they were missing was just a montage of them taking off somebody's glasses and shaking out the ponytail. And makeover is done.
I was just here like, I need a hero, and then they're just like pulling, he's pulling the clothes off the rack, and
But okay, what really got me was Batcher had nothing. So they're just running around like, oh, we need to hide. We need to disguise ourselves. We need to hide. We need to disguise ourselves. But don't mind this hound in the background. Don't look at that back there. Just
what are they gonna do? Like Little Rascal style, and stand on top and just like go down the street? Like don't worry about it.
Do they have trench coats in this galaxy?
Yeah, yeah. The guy that's in charge of the military presence is wearing a trench coat.
He had a trench coat. I did not think we were gonna take a
I
fashion
thought for
trend.
a moment, I really thought, I'm like, are they gonna knock him out? They're gonna take his trench coat and they're just gonna like, she's gonna like walk in like, hello, and get on one of the spaceships.
His hat.
Yeah, with money. I also thought for a moment we were gonna see Hunter take over like a stormtrooper outfit. And there's just because we were like really starting to get that vibe, I was like, oh well, they did that a lot in the movies.
Yeah, because there were so many cliches. Any type of movement that kind of shuffled towards that way made me feel like those were going to happen too. But you're right, maybe that was to give us that nostalgic feel. The scenery of the animation in this episode also reminded me of The Mandalorian. I don't know if that has any significance.
No, yeah, definitely.
I even asked Kyle, I was like, wait, does this have anything to do with Mandalorian? It just looked very similar.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's that Batu Navarro feel where you're definitely in the Outer Rim. The bulk of the Empire isn't there, and I mean it's really cool to see. I like that we're branching out more, and we didn't do that in season 1 and 2. I mean there was a lot of the show forming its own vibe, and now we're really getting into it. I love that this is only episode 4, and coincidentally, A New Hope episode 4. Like I think that whole thing played in a little bit to it. Even when they go into the bar area, you see some of the cantina creatures from A New Hope. They're also in there. So there was definitely some forceful play there.
So in this episode, we see that Omega's gambling, but she says, my luck has to run out eventually. Ooh. Do you think that's foreshadowing again?
At this point, everything is foreshadowing. I mean, that is the direction that we're headed in this season. We know now that the Bad Batch is all about Omega. I think in the beginning, it was hinted. You could argue it in many different ways. This season is Omega's season to shine, and everything she says should be listened to. So, is she going to be out of luck soon? I mean, the odds are really against her.
Approximately 3,720 to 1. Never tell me the odds.
So the argument online right now is she force sensitive because we're talking about midichlorians? Or is it simply, hey, her blood and DNA works to make cloning Palpatine or force sensitive people happen? That remains to be seen, but a lot of arguments are really pushing, to the realm of possibility in that she is super lucky every time. I mean, she got out of prison, she won endless card games. We've seen that happen throughout the series as well. So what's going on there? I mean, is it just luck? Well, not in Star Wars.
A light bulb just went off for me. Thanks. Oh. Again, it reminded me of The Mandalorian, where there's always these side quests. There's something happens and it's like, you need credits. And it's like, oh my gosh, I need to do like a Super Mario mission to go get some credits before the story can progress. And that's really what it made me think of. Yeah. And then Crosshair says, I'm getting tired of this. Me too, kid. Me too.
Crosshair is super likable in this episode. Yeah. I think we're seeing that return arc. He's always been very, on the nose with everything. But I gotta say, like, the coolest thing that was brought to my attention, at least, was that last episode was the first time he ever used Omega's name in the entire series. I didn't realize that. And so,
what did he call her?
Kid. All the time.
And kid. I just said kid.
Yeah, and that's
there was one part in this episode when I asked, "Hey, can you rewind? What happened there?" And all I wrote was the shriek.
The shriek?
The shriek. I thought they were yeehawing out of there when Omega and Crosshair.
Okay, so that was an awesome part. We see when they're making their triumphant escape on the stolen frigate. I don't know why they did it. It was beautiful.
I'm sitting here writing notes, okay, in this exact seat, and I'm just writing away. And even you're like, wait, did they scream? What was that? Were they yeehawing? What? It reminds me, you didn't see that, and it's just somebody getting knocked
The
out of the
stormtrooper
way.
getting, you could see the wash from the jet engines like flying over him, and then he just poof out of. That was funny. Like it was shot super well. Great cinematography. I mean, that was good. It made it fun. Like it took away, it brought back some like slapstick comedy to it without being just for the sake of a joke. It was good. I like that.
I really thought there was a cowboy in space for a second. I really did.
Well, this is a space western in Star Wars.
Oh my gosh, it's true.
When they come out of hyperspace, it was super emotional. I felt emotional, and it was because of the way season 2 ended, how this season has had such prominence in the way that the music is, the feel of danger, suspense. When they came out and you see the ship, the Marauder, sitting there, I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? And for me, the first time I saw it and nobody came in view of the door, I was like, are they there? Are they okay?
I got nervous.
That was my first thing. I was like, whoa, what's going on? And it didn't happen that way. Like a movie, I was like, what's gonna happen here? What could happen? Possibilities and all these. And then they were okay. And I for a second I really thought Hemlock was gonna come in the doorway, or a bounty hunter, and here we go. So it was cool to see that and feel that suspense. I really enjoyed seeing Wrecker and Hunter back with Omega. Very emotional scene. I'm surprised I can say that about a cartoon, but I was super emotional about it. It was neat to see. Um, overall too, a very tense standoff with Hunter, Wrecker, and Crosshair, and there's good reason for it. That they've got into this whole mess essentially because Crosshair wasn't with them, and I can't just blame him for it. But to think if he had never turned his back on his team, even though he's helped Omega through a couple situations to get here, still
see,
very tense.
Those were the pieces I was missing then, as a new viewer coming in, just watching the third season. Right around the stare off was when I felt like, okay, I need a little bit of you want to do a stare off?
Does this mean that you might watch any of the other seasons? I think by the end of this, there's a good chance you'll want to go back and see a couple episodes. I think you will.
I would probably watch the recap right before season 2.
Well, I'm happy that we are at this point and only on episode 4. It opens the floodgates for the rest of the series. There's so much room left to run. There's a number of directions coming. We know that bounty hunters are going to be after them, the full force of the Empire. We talked about it last time. Is there a possibility for any other blockbuster stars to come in? It's looking more and more as we're getting that tone set, for these future films. Are we going to see Thrawn? Are we going to see Vader? Tarkin? Who are we going to see? I think the stage is getting set that we are up for a huge finale. We know there are some surprises ahead. We know some characters are coming back. We just don't know how, why, or when. So I'm super excited. What about you?
I would say I'd be disappointed if we didn't see everything you just described. So even though I mentioned I feel like I missed a bit of the storyline, I do feel like it will be resolved in later episodes. I feel like even as soon as next episode, like those gaps will be filled and I'll have a greater understanding and the significance of everything that happened in this episode. So I'm looking forward to it.
That's cool. So next week, episode 5, we'll see where we're headed. There's a lot of possibilities. I think overall, we're looking at potentially a side quest episode, potentially focusing only on what the Empire is doing. We might take some steps back just because of how fast it went. And we may see some new characters and follow them for an episode or two just to set up something, because I think we can kind of close out the first chapter of this series with this episode. And so now we're looking somewhere brand new in a galaxy far, far away.